Hi, kitty. Do you want to be my model for this next thing? Okay, ladies and gents, so today we're going to talk about the muscles of the abdomen. So Gabriel here is going to demonstrate where those are. All right, if you look at my kitty here, these are the abdominal muscles, okay? So below the chest muscles, here in the center. All right, thank you, kitty. Okay, so today, ladies and gents, we're going to talk about the muscles of the abdomen. So like before, I'm going to go through, discuss the origin, insertions, and actions of each of the abdominal muscles, highlight the things you need to know for each of these different muscles in this group, and again, point out some things that help you remember each of these different muscles. Okay, so let's begin with the rectus abdominis. So as the abdominal muscles imply, these are your ab muscles. Okay, these are the muscles you see if you got a ripped six-pack and so on. Okay, so with the rectus abdominis, it's the muscle that's here in the center. All right, so if you highlight here in this red, that is the rectus abdominis. Center part, it's the most superficial of your abdominal muscles, and it's relatively large, but it's also kind of thin. All right, it's a pretty thin muscle. Stronger for people that obviously work out. If you develop a good strong core muscle here with your rectus abdominis, it helps with your posture, it improves breathing, and overall you are healthier and function better in other physiological areas, not just on aesthetics, like that you've got ripped abs. Okay, so rectus abdominis, it's going to begin on the superior surface of the pubis around the pubic symphysis. When you're talking about the origin here, all right, I am okay with you guys just saying superior surface of the pubis. Around the pubic symphysis gives an idea that it starts here in the center part. Remember, the pubic symphysis is where your two pubic bones join together. So that thick layer of cartilage where they come together. If you don't remember that, you should study up on bones real fast because that'll help you later on as you look at other these origin insertions and help with actions. Insertion. So the insertion on this guy is pretty long, okay? But you have to know all of it. So inferior surface of the costal cartilages of ribs 5 through 7 and the xiphoid process. So you can help you there if you count your ribs and look here, all right, 5 through 7. Remember, costal cartilage is the cartilage of the ribs that is present there because the ribs don't attach directly to the sternum. Okay, so there's still some cartilage here. All right, and xiphoid process. So that's the point, lowest point of your sternum. Action. It has two actions. One of those is it depresses the ribs. The other is that it flexes the vertebral column. So what that means is it helps depress your ribs, so it lowers them down, so it helps with breathing. But when you flex it, like when you do a crunch, you're causing your vertebral column to change shape, right? So you're actually flexing your vertebral column when your rectus abdominis does work. Okay, so rectus abdominis is here in the center. Your next muscles, external oblique, okay? Your external oblique is on the side of your chest, okay? So if you think about where your rectus abdominis is here in the center, your external obliques come into the sides. With the external oblique, okay, there's the external oblique and the internal oblique, and then another muscle called the transverse abdominis. These three muscles work together to form kind of a muscle sandwich, all right, in your sides of your chest, and in your abdominal region. So when we dissect the cat and get to this point, you'll be able to see that. We'll form a little window. You can see the changes in the muscle fibers. So when you're trying to remember external, internal, and transverse abdominis, these muscles are easily identified by the way the grain moves. All right, so if the grain is going in that direction, that's going to tell you where the origin is, all right, and then the insertion point, okay? So with our external oblique, it's relatively straightforward with origin, insertion, and action. So it begins in the lower 8 ribs. So if you look here, here's your serratus anterior. We found this muscle on the cat. Serratus anterior here. Right, your external oblique joins in with your serratus anterior. So it kind of forms like those serrations come together like this. So one of these, for example, is my serratus anterior. My external oblique is going to fit in that space. Your insertion, linea alba and iliac crest. Okay, so both of those count. Here's your crest of your ilium. And linea alba. So the linea alba is here. All right, so our rectus abdominis is here, and there's a thick sheet of connective tissue that's going to cover this area. All right, remember aponeurosis is a thick tendon. In the center of that, right, where your belly button and then that midline of your body is the linea alba. So it literally means white line. Linea alba, this is where several muscles actually join into this thick band of connective tissue right here in the center. So linea alba, your external oblique is going to join into your linea alba there. So again, linea alba here, your external oblique is going to join into that. All right, our next muscle, so with the action of our external oblique, compresses abdomen, depresses ribs, and flexes laterally. So to work out your external oblique, you see people doing like side turns, or they'll do weights where they'll hold it in one arm and you drop to the side. Okay, that's an action that will work out external obliques. If you're doing crunches, the side movement, so if you're laying down, you feel and you reach for each of your feet, right? That is going to exercise your oblique muscles. Right, so lower 8 ribs, linea alba, and iliac crest, and one of these 3 actions. So compresses abdomen, depresses ribs, flexes or laterally flexes your vertebral column. So again, it moves your vertebra. Internal oblique. So this is the center part of that sandwich that I mentioned. Internal oblique, if you look at the grain, it's going to be running up towards the ribs. Okay, so external oblique, if you recall, is running in the opposite direction. It's going down this way towards the pubic region. Internal oblique is going to be going up towards your sternum. All right, origin, insertion, action of your internal oblique. It begins in the iliac crest and the adjacent connective tissues. If you describe this as iliac crest, that is okay with me. Insertion, lower ribs, xiphoid process of sternum, and linea alba. So again, with the insertion of this guy, you got to know it all. And that's pretty easy if you recall. If you look at this muscle, you can see where it's going. It's starting in the iliac crest. The grain is going up towards the sternum. Okay, so it's going to insert in your lower ribs here along this edge. It's going to insert into your xiphoid process of the sternum because that's where it's headed, right? And then your linea alba. So these muscles over here, right, they're going towards this white line. Okay, so they're all going to head in that direction. So any one of these 3 actions counts. So compresses abdomen, depresses ribs, and flexes laterally vertebral column. So very similar to what is happening with the external oblique. The next muscle in that sandwich, in the bottom one, the most deep of these 3 muscles is the transverse abdominis. It actually goes underneath your rectus a little bit, and it starts here. So it begins on the cartilage of the lower ribs, iliac crest, and adjacent connective tissues. So if you say lower ribs and iliac crest, that is okay with me. Adjacent connective tissues, there's actually a really thick tendon here in your back that transverse abdominis actually joins to. Okay, but you can say cartilage of lower ribs and iliac crest, that is okay with me. Insertion, linea alba and pubis, so if you look here, going to that connective tissue in the center, and then down to the pubic bone. And then lastly, its only action is compresses abdomen. So that's all you need to know for transverse abdominis. So again, it's going in this sandwich. So if I draw all the way the grains are going, external oblique is going down this way. Internal oblique is going to be deep to that, and it's going to be running up in this other direction. Okay, and then your transverse abdominis is going to be running straight across. Okay, so just like this in this direction. Okay, so it forms a sandwich. So when you're doing your dissections, you can find these muscles by following the grain. Okay, so whichever way it's headed, that'll help inform you on which muscle it is. The last muscle that we're going to talk about for this region of the body is the diaphragm. So I'm sure lots of you have heard of diaphragm. If you're in choir or anything like that, people say sing from the diaphragm. All right, it's a muscle that helps with breathing. All right, its main job is to help expand and contract your thoracic cavity. The way the diaphragm works, it kind of looks like a parachute. Okay, it looks like this mound mass circle of muscle. It's very thin, okay, and it's very deep. Okay, it's the deepest of the abdominal muscles that we're going to talk about. With the diaphragm, its origin, it's very complicated, and you guys need to know all of these parts, okay? So it kind of forms a circular portion here where it's going to originate, okay, all of that down here. So xiphoid process of the sternum is where it starts. It also starts on the ribs 4 through 8, so this connective tissue here is where it's going to join. And it's going to join to the anterior surfaces of the lumbar vertebra. So if you see right there in the back, that is the lumbar vertebra where your diaphragm is attaching. Insertion. So this is incorrect. For some reason my PowerPoint is being difficult and will not change it. All right, it's going to start at, okay, insertion. All right, according to your book, it is the central tendon. All right, so central tendinous sheet. Okay, so it's going to insert into connective tissue that is up here. Okay, so in this area. So with that connective tissue, right, it's going to help allow your muscle to move and flex. Okay, so insertion, central tendinous sheet. All right, action. All right, this thing does a lot of things. It helps contract your abdominal cavity, expand thoracic cavity. It does a lot of stuff. So relaxes. So when this muscle actually contracts, it's going to shrink your cavity. Okay, when it relaxes, it gets bigger. Okay, and your muscle will actually increase your cavity and you'll bring in more air. So action, contraction, and expansion of thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. Okay, so all of those things are with the action. So again, this insertion that's listed here is incorrect. It's the central tendinous sheet. Okay. All right, so that is it for the muscles of the abdomen. So it's only those few. Again, study the origin, insertions, and actions, and you can expect to see these muscles on future practicals. All right, so enjoy reading all of those and reviewing all of those things.